What's up, everybody? It's Jeff Greer, host of Floyd Street's Finest, a Louisville basketball podcast, part of the Field of 68 Media Network. Got a great episode for you guys today as Chris Mack is joining us to talk about a couple weeks now in to summer workouts, talk a little recruiting, talk a little schedule. There's some tidbits in there that I don't know that I've heard anywhere else before. So excited to get you guys that interview today. Before we get there, of course, some house cleaning issues. There always are. I got to mention them. Make sure that you have subscribed to this podcast and rated and reviewed it. That's a big way for people to find it. It's a great way for people to know that this is a somewhat reputable podcast, depending on who you ask. And, even has an official printer behind it here. I don't know why that has decided to be there for the beginning of this podcast, but it'll be there the remainder. Really excited to have Chris on, and we've had so much good content in addition to good interviews over the past few months. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well for Field of 68. You can follow him on Twitter as well. And there's just a constant stream of content. You don't have to be a Louisville fan. If you're a Louisville fan and you want to know about other teams or just a big college hoops fan, it's like an endless supply of content. And we're going all through the summer, getting ready for next season. And we've got grand plans to keep going and keep pushing stuff and keep having great guests on and great interviews. And that's the plan here as well. We've got Chris Mack, like I said. We've got Jared West, just recorded that. In fact, when that episode comes out, you're going to be like, I think he was wearing that same exact outfit as he was when he was talking to Chris Mack, as my fifth grade dementors would tell me. You wore that 2 days ago. I'm on to you. You got to change your clothes. Anyway, that is because I wore the same outfit for both interviews, recorded them, and we can space them out a little bit. So you will notice that. But anyway, you got Jared West, you got Chris Mack. I'm hoping to get Cahill Fennell, to get Taylor Barnett, to get Mike Pegues back on the pod. We had Ross McMains last week. And as we go throughout the offseason, trying to get some players as well as workouts continue. I'm not really going to delay anymore. We've talked a lot about Ross McMains and the implementation of that offensive system. And I'll be honest with you, it sure sounds like there's going to be a lot taken from what he had, more philosophy, concept type stuff than necessarily. And Ross said this on the podcast and elsewhere. He's not like I come in and I have a system that I like to do as an offensive coordinator or whatever, as an assistant coach or a head coach. And I'm going to make these players fit in with what I like to do. And that certainly is not going to be the case when he's coming in on a staff. So he's coming in to be an influential mind and try to tweak some stuff that New Zealand, their national team did and does, that is well known in basketball circles. And try to implement some of that at Louisville, but there's still going to be some tweaks and things that are related to, or stylistic things that are familiar for people who have followed either Xavier or Louisville or both when Chris Mack has been the coach. So we get into that. So I think it's going to be really interesting talking about that all summer, and then obviously we'll see what they've been able to implement and use once the season starts. Without any further chatter, as I said last week, enough verbal vomit. Let's get to the interview with Chris Mack. Enjoy. And again, please rate and review your favorite podcast whenever you get a chance. All right. We're joined by the Chris Mack. Chris, how we doing?
The Chris Mack. I'm doing great.
If you Google your name, there's another Chris Mack out there. I think he's a media guy. There's two Chris Macks, but you win the Googling search.
Yeah, I think that he's like he's with some radio station in Pittsburgh, I believe.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
Nobody likes him, so I feel bad for the guy.
Oh, well, that's okay. So we're recording this for people who are listening on Wednesday morning. So did you have your second team workout already?
We did. I just walked off the floor.
Okay.
5 minutes ago. So yeah, we had our second team workout, as you can imagine. June 16th, the ball flies everywhere a little bit too for my liking. Our inability to take care of the basketball. We were doing a lot of transitional things from defense to offense. Sometimes the decisions are being made maybe at a quicker pace than our guys should be making them. But summer's for, and we're learning a lot. It's a new style of play for sure, and we just got to keep trying to improve throughout the summer.
Well, I want to get into a couple different things with summer workouts, some players I want to ask you about. But let's start with what you mentioned, some new system ideas. And obviously, when you change staff, you're going to have guys who have a little bit of a different idea. I know Cahill was still on staff, but moving into a different role, you bring in Ross McMains. You've done this for a while. You've had some success as a head coach at the college basketball level, obviously. And on the offensive end, how do you mix and match what you've already done successfully and you feel like you enjoy and Mike likes about your offenses with someone like Ross coming in from the outside or Cahill coming into a little bit of a different role?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it started in the interview process, and I think I've said this before, that when I was doing a couple of these Zooms with a few close friends of mine in coaching, the New Zealand national team got brought up. And, when we had the opportunity to watch a lot of tape during the pandemic, during the offseason, it was really an exciting style. It was one where, the ball really pinged around. And obviously, those guys are really, really skilled and have the ability to shoot the three. And so for me, I thought it was really unique, really played at a fast pace. And when the interview process happened and, we got hooked up with Ross, I was just really intrigued the first time, all the things that he brought to the table, which, again, resembles a lot of, how the game's looking globally, whether that's NBA, overseas, the game has changed a lot. Sometimes, it takes a little time for it to filter down to the college level and ultimately the high school level. Jeff, years ago when I played, and that's a long time ago, we weren't allowed to set ball screens. I mean, you weren't allowed to come close to the ball. You had to be spaced away, be constantly on the move. And now, you see guys that are making sure they're in the corners. The spacing on the floor is maximized. Ball screens are everything. The ability to read those things and get teammates in positions where they're defending closeouts. Or dealing with closeouts and being able to capitalize on that. I just thought in talking to Ross, his experience at where he's been, both in the NBA, where our guys want to go. Mm-hmm. Overseas, I thought it was very intriguing. And, this isn't a wholesale change. There are a lot of things that we conceptually have done for years and will continue to try to do. But I think, Ross really brings a unique style of how to present things. He's a great teacher. I think that's hasn't been stressed enough. He's been developing guys in the pre-draft pre-draft process for 10 plus years. With over 400 NBA players, he knows his stuff. He knows how to teach. So even if he's teaching some of the similar concepts that we've always had, it's a unique voice. It's a fresh voice, and he paints a picture that's really unique when he talks basketball. And if you've ever had a chance to interview him, I think you probably hear the same thing. So again, there's going to be a lot of things that we can continue to do, and there's going to be a lot of things that are a shift in how we play. And one of those shifts better be our pace.
Yeah, that was so it's interesting you mentioned all that because I talked to one of the guys who played for him at Melbourne United, who said that a lot of the American players who would come to Australia to play professionally, names who people who follow college basketball like Melo Trimble, Casey Prather, guys who were good at the D1, at the high level D1 college basketball, they came down to Australia and they kind of were, it was like a magnet connection to Ross because of that development side, the terminology, making things, simplifying things, and allowing players. And I know you talk about this too, is trying to get players to be confident enough in what you want to do that it can develop organically, but it's still the system you want to play. It's just that they have developed that thought process. I thought that was really interesting. And assumed that it would translate well to the college level, with guys like Mike and Cahill who already are good at that, and talking to college kids.
Yep. And, one of the things that stressed in the interview process to Ross was like, you're not working with pros. These are developing guys with, coming out of high school that sometimes have bad habits that we have to correct. And so, you're asking a guy to come off the ball screen and maybe throw a one-handed hook pass. And, we've been trying to beat out of his head, quit throwing one-handed passes because, you can't get it back when you get to a certain point and you realize, oh, shoot, you don't have Wilt Chamberlain size or Kawhi size hands, and that ball's being thrown out of bounds, which we saw a lot of today. So it's just marrying the two, I don't want to say philosophies, but a lot of terminology, a lot of teaching points. And, it's going to be a huge learning curve for our guys over the summer. But that's what the summer's for. I mean, it's exciting, and we're just taking it workout by workout and practice by practice.
And I do think, obviously, even before Ross came into the mix, you were looking for guys who could knock down shots more consistently. But I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong, adding guys like I was watching, I went a little too deep probably yesterday for my wife's liking into synergy, watching Noah Locke clips yesterday in transition. And having one guy, let alone a couple of guys that you guys have added, who can catch and shoot in transition, who can get their own shots a little bit too. Not only would that enhance any offense, but especially with the ideas that you guys are going to be working on this summer.
Yeah, I mean, shooting's the greatest skill in sport, in basketball, that you can have. I mean, it's absolutely the greatest skill. It's the equalizer. And we have some guys that can really heat up. You mentioned Noah Locke. Jared West has been almost a career 40% three-point shooter. I think Ellis, although he's done it at a different level, he's a very capable shooter from three. It makes guys that maybe that's not the first thing you think of when you think of Sam Williamson, is maybe shooting threes or being a Noah Locke type of sniper, if you will. But it makes Sam's game better because the floor gets spaced out more, and that's what, some of our playmakers didn't necessarily have a year ago. And it was tough. The lane, if you look at the ACC tournament, Duke played us completely different from the first two times. They've always been known as a team that's going to deny and get out on the floor and pressure you. And they literally sat their entire team almost in the paint. And when you talk about 7-footers and Matt Hurt's out there at 6'10" and they're standing in the lane, you can only squeeze so many layups. You have to be able to make some shots. We couldn't do that. And so we obviously addressed it. Matt Cross, Noah Locke, Jared West, Ellis. I mean, we got guys that can shoot. I think the guys from a year ago will shoot better this year. But most importantly, the floor is going to be more spaced for a guy that might be considered more a driver, poster, slasher. He's going to have more room, provided he makes the right decision when to come to the ball. And that's where we're at right now, working through those type of scenarios in practice.
Well, you mentioned Sam, and there's a couple of guys who kind of, I would, again, tell me if I'm wrong, way better than I would, but but there are some guys who I would think would be both in transition, but in a spaced out half court situation would benefit from having more shooters around them. I mean, everyone benefits, obviously,
right?
But Sam is one guy who I think would really love to be able to do that one rip through quick move into his mid range. He's got the little floater, although, some coaches don't like floaters as much as others, but he's got that ability to score around the rim.
Yep.
Jalen also has shown that face up ability. JJ has a little bit of that. Those guys, what's their summer going to be like for them? And I'm particularly interested in JJ and Jalen because they're having to go back to what would be their more natural positions after having to kind of fill at the 5 last year.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you can put everybody in the same bucket. We're all learning, and I'm talking about the players. So, they're trying to figure out, where do my opportunities come from, with this spaced out offense that we're constantly stressing, teaching, don't come to the ball, stay away. And they've got to be able to pick their spots and figure out maybe how to run through a pass and get in the lane. And you mentioned Sam, him getting to his mid-range, him getting to his floater. He's got a knack. And we don't want to take that away. If anything, hopefully that continues to improve and he can do it on the floor with more spacing. Jalen's still making, as is JJ, that transition to the perimeter, and their decision-making, their ability to handle the basketball, not just when a 5 is out on the perimeter guarding them, but when, a 6'6" guy that they can't necessarily beat with quickness, is challenging them or defending them on the perimeter. That's all stuff that they're learning and they're working through. During the summer now, we've had, Malik and Rose haven't been doing 5-on-5 stuff. So consequently, that's put Gabe, who's always going to be a 5, but it's also put JJ down there a little bit in the summer. So he's learning both perimeter responsibilities and a big responsibility just in case an emergency. But we're still trying to accentuate, what he can do on the perimeter and try to grow that part of his game this summer.
Take me through what you want to see from Sam. He's had a great second year. Started rebounding, getting out of his area a little bit more, stuff that we all saw in AAU and at the high school level. What's that next step for him this summer, you think, to help him move into an even better role or bigger role next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, his 3-point shooting, I don't want him to identify good game, bad game based on how I'm shooting the ball, but I think for his overall development, his ability to shoot the 3 and make the 3 on a consistent basis is important, and I think he spent a lot of time, both in Texas, where he's from, and here when he's been back in the gym working on his 3-point shot. He's a guy that I never have to worry about being in the gym. Sam, a worker. I think his defense took a big step up as a sophomore from freshman year. He's a really, really competitive kid. So I'd like to think that he'll be an even better defender. We need him to do the same type of things he did in the second half of the season. He's got to be the best offensive rebounder in small forward position in the league. But I think just his ability to sort of, grow intellectually on the floor. Like when are there opportunities to back cut? When do I have to keep spacing versus I can get behind the defense and get in the lane? When can I use my size on a smaller defensive player? All those type of things. The ability to play off a closeout. So not necessarily giving you one thing besides the shooting, but just growing his game, and making better decisions. I think his assist turnover ratio is about 1-to-1, and he's a better passer. And than I think he showed. So again, playing with better shooters around him, hopeful that he, uses that to his advantage this coming season.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit here on you. I got a couple more to get to you. One is through reporting, through the old Twitter machine, there's been a lot of different stuff coming out about the schedule for next season. It sounds like some things have changed a little bit on the fly, but where are you guys right now? What do you have on there that you're looking forward to, that kind of stuff?
So we were supposed to play, last year, Cincinnati at Cincinnati, which then gave us a home game with the Bearcats this season. Obviously, we didn't play that. They started the season later. UC was supposed to be one of our first games, if not the first game. And so, that series is off the table. So we are looking at another high major type program, home and home. But Jeff, with the pandemic and how many people need home games and, revenue lost, it's really difficult to get home games because not many teams are willing to lose home games and go on the road, especially for a series. But we think we're close. The MTE event that we were in New York at MSG is no longer. Gonzaga pulled out. They didn't want to play in Newark. Haven't played Seton Hall there for years. And so I believe we're headed to the Bahamas. And
okay.
It'll be announced fairly soon. I don't know if the ink is dry at this point, but all indications are we'll be in the Bahamas. And that'll be a 4-team, 2-game tournament, I think back-to-back nights is my understanding.
Okay. I remember when you first got the job, I forgot what the event was, but I had asked, I said, can you lock me in for a Maui trip at some point? and you said, don't worry, it's coming down the line. So now it's on the schedule. I'm sure that's a big hit at home for everybody for a holiday out in Hawaii.
Yeah, it's a big tournament. It's probably the biggest one there is. It's certainly a long-standing one. You get powerhouses in it every year, so it takes a lot out of you. I mean, it's it's not like it's going over to Indianapolis. I mean, it's a long ways away, different time zones, but man, it's incredible experience for our guys. We're looking forward to it, and not this year, but next.
Okay. Tell me about recruiting. So what are your goals this summer? I know the transfer portal changes everything for you guys, but what are you hoping to accomplish this summer with the 2022 class?
Get really good Cardinals. That's what we're hoping for. So, right. The transfer portal has changed a lot. This is going to be our staff's first opportunity, in some cases, not all, but to put eyeballs, live in person on kids. And I'll start this weekend. We've got team camps. So the first 2 weekends in June are all dedicated to state associations around the country. Has nothing to do with AAU. Everybody's playing with their own high school team. And so, we'll be all over from Georgia to Washington, D.C. to right here down the road in Kentucky. So, it's a great opportunity to see kids playing with their own team, their own high school team they've been practicing with. And then in July, we'll have those 3 weekends after July 4th weekend. I think it's the 8th through the 11th. I think 16th through the 18th, and then 23rd through 25th, where it will be all AAU basketball. So that's peach jams and different tournaments around the country, the shoe circuits, if you will. So, right now we're trying to get, at least 2 more guys. We have a commitment in that class I can't really talk about, but more than likely 2 guys. And here's the thing, if guys find that other schools are better opportunities, there is a transfer portal as a safety net, which is way different. No longer are those kids 5th-year players all the time, like a Kristen Cunningham or a Quan Four. Those guys could be like a Matt Cross, where they have a lot of years of eligibility, Matt with 4 of them. So, we're going to try to fill in some holes and figure out what our roster needs to look like the following season.
Last thing then I'll ask you about is this, just the last 2 months. I mean, this offseason has been wild. There's been a bunch of additions, obviously changing staff. How have you kind of kept an even keel through this? How have you dealt with, obviously you're in headlines for things you probably didn't want to be in headlines for. You get some big additions. It just felt like a really busy 2 months for Louisville basketball. So how did you guys navigate that as a family and down at the actual baskall facility and on staff?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a positive person. I went through a lot, when I was a player. I went through a lot. I had 2 ACLs back to back. I decided to transfer, do my whole sit-out year, Jeff, which was tough. I'm practicing with the team every single day. And the moment I'm able to play in the first 8 seconds of an exhibition game, I tear my left ACL. That puts me on the sidelines for another 7-8 months after the surgery. And when I'm starting to come back in the summer, I get released to play in the summer league. I tear my other ACL. I don't tell you that story to feel sorry for me. I've been through a lot as a player. And so I teach these guys, and I talk to our guys all the time about adversity is always going to strike you. It could be in the course of the game. It could be in the course of the season. It could be in the course of your career. And how you respond is really, what defines you. How do you respond? You put your tail between your legs. Me, I decided a long time ago that I'm going to have a positive attitude. I remember years ago saying it's like Chevy Chase getting to Wally World, all the stuff you go through. Somehow he's going to find a way to get on that roller coaster, even if he has to have a BB gun in his hand. But I'm always going to be positive. I'm going to try to be the best dad I can be, and not worry about anything that's going on at work, so to speak, when I walk through the, garage door when I come home. But I feel great. I feel great about our team. I feel great about the direction of our program. I love the hires that I've made. Those guys have brought incredible chemistry and energy every single day. That's all you can ask for as a coach. And so, we have good things in store.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate your time. I know it's a busy couple of months for you, so best of luck the rest of the way, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Appreciate you having me, Jeff.
All right. Thanks, Chris.